What's the most important resource that you have? If you really thought about this deeply, I think you'd come to the same conclusion that Joey and I did. It's time. In our newest book, What's Without Wall Street, the 3 Steps to Financial Freedom Through Passive Income, we talk about how are we tracking that time? What is the thing that we can do to get more of that time back?
That's right. If you've ever been listening to our podcast and thought, man, it would be amazing if I could take all the things that you guys have learned over the last 10 years and just summarize them, put them in some way to easily digest them and take action, that's what this book is all about. You're not going to want to miss it. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/new book and get your copy today. Tribe, you've heard us talk about becoming the bank so many times on this podcast. Today, you get to hear from the man himself, Eddie Speed. Eddie, so glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. How are you?
Man, we're good. If we're any better, we would be you, Eddie. And with a name like Speed, I want to get to the point. I want to know, why is this important to me? If I'm a real estate investor, what is it about this specific topic that is going to get me excited?
Well, let's look at everything about business, and it is timing. Timing is more important than just doing the perfect process. Average process and perfect timing is better than, trying to go do it perfect, but not in the best timing. We're in a note cycle. The market is in a note cycle, right? We've been in a rental cycle, right? But what happens when that goes away, right? So then all of a sudden, people that were interested in investing in rentals, call it syndications, multifamily, right? Which is not on the good side right now. Or people that were interested in having rent houses, they're frustrated. And if I had a bunch of rentals, I would be frustrated because you're doing a lot of work. There's brain damage involved, right? And you're not netting the income. You're not even netting the income you were netting before the virus started, because it's called inflation. And that's where people are. And people then say, wait a minute, if I were just the bank and I just owned a mortgage on that property, could I make more money than I could renting? So here you go, guys. Here's some easy math, right? Take $200,000. I got $200,000 sack of money. What do I invest in? Okay, let's take you guys town, Birmingham. Right? I got friends there. We got mutual friends. I'm going to buy a rent house for $200,000. Probably going to rent for $1,500, $1,600 a month. Is that about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. Gold standard in real estate is 50% of the income you get from rent is going to go out the door in expenses. And people say, well, that's not. No, it's pretty much the most seasoned people in the business. One of the most seasoned landlords in your town, we mutually know. And he's a student at Note School, and he will assure you that number is about 50%. So you get $1,600, but problem is I'm going to lose half of the money in expenses, and for my $200,000 investment, I'm going to net $800 a month. That's on the rental side.
Yep.
I buy a note with $200,000. And I'm going to get between $1,800 and $2,000 net income per month.
Okay, let's talk about that. How do I buy a note? That may be a new term. Well, one is, what is a note, and how do I go about buying it? This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Okay, so a note is simply a promise to pay. A mortgage note is where somebody has promised to pay for a piece of property. They owe a principal amount. They have interest. They have a monthly payment. It's an installment note. They're paying it over time, okay? I am a note buyer. In fact, in my career, I bought over 50,000 notes, right? So I bought the note secured by a property and not physically the property itself. I'm the bank, and notes are bought and sold every day. Now, I'm a specialist predominantly in the seller finance arena. So I bought over 50,000 seller finance notes. So a real estate investor, seller finances a property, carries back the financing, a tote the note scenario. He's carried the terms, carried the financing over time. Then he needs to cash in. He calls somebody like me and says, Eddie, I need to sell my note. Because, you run out of money, right?
So let me make sure I'm playing this back. So I own a house. I seller finance it to Joey, who bought my house but didn't go to a bank to get it.
That's it.
And Joey's paying me, doing well. And I come to you and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'd really rather just get a big lump sum of cash. I could go to Joey, but maybe he doesn't have the money, or I don't go to him for some reason. And I come to you. That's what you're saying.
I am a note buyer.
Gotcha.
Right. And in this specialty space, I'm very well known to be that, right? So people come to us every day. We bid a lot of one-off notes, but we particularly, about 75% of the notes we buy are in a group of notes. They're in a portfolio. A guy's got 10 of these notes or 50 of these notes, right? And we're very well known in that industry to do that. And then we buy these notes. Then we use a kind of a done-for-you system and disseminate those notes back out into our school's membership. Note School has a membership where people then can say, Eddie, I can't go buy a dozen notes, but I can buy one, right? And so we help them and facilitate them being able to do that. So with their $200,000 in cash, it's going to throw off, just say simple math, guys, say $1,800 a month. So here's my two options with my $200,000. I'm going to net $800 on a rental. I'm going to net $1,800 on a note.
That seems like pretty easy math. I'm going with the second one.
Russ, to be honest with you. But so walk me through exactly. Okay, let's say that deal, somebody did owner finance for $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then they need the money. Like, walk me through from that first process. This is the impetus. Somebody creates the note.
Yep.
They start receiving that $1,800 cash flow. And then they say, I just need the money. I've run out of money. How do I then sell to you? And then what's the next step after that? Like, help me understand the numbers.
So they call me with the note. We generally are going to buy notes at a discount. Now, we don't buy them at a giant discount necessarily, but let's just say they have a 10% discount on the note. Okay, so they had a $200,000 note, and I'm buying that note for $180,000, right? But it has interest on it. Like, it might have 10% interest payable over 20 years. Our job is that for the last 44 years now, I've been buying these notes, and I have a team of very experienced, very specialized people. We know kind of the risk management, a litmus test we need to do to that deal. What's the likelihood we think it'll pay, right? And we do all of that voodoo, right? All of that underwriting and stuff, because that's important, right? Somebody's got to have some savvy to look at it and say, this is a good deal, right? And that's part of the reason I built a school, because I want people that are buying notes to have a good understanding of what it is they're buying. And what it is.
At the end of the day, it could really blow up on them if they didn't.
Well, experience is what you get when you're expecting something else, right? We're not looking for that experience, right? We're looking for knowledge and confidence because you know what you're looking for, right? So we've done this enough. We've broken it down into some pretty simple processes that people can do. And then we teach them how to buy notes. Now, I'm a veteran, been doing this forever, had note school for almost 25 years, right? So all of these things now all of a sudden have kind of melted up. And right now we have people that would have been buying a rental property or would have been investing in a multifamily. And now all of a sudden that isn't such a good business anymore, right? Rent houses are pretty flat in their value. We saw a very traumatic change that it affected the rental business. Expenses went up by about 60% over about 4 years. However, rents went up about 20%. So the rents, people say, yeah, but rents rose, but they didn't rise at the rate that expenses rose. And so they've now all of a sudden been in a situation where their property isn't making as much money. And this is what forces people, guys, to go look at other alternatives. What got people on rental properties and buying in multifamily? Scared of the stock market. Right? Something drove them out of this to go look for something else. And so now all of a sudden that opportunity has become much more narrow. And so they're now looking around saying, what else could I do? And, we're saying, well, I've been in the note space since 1980. We think it's a pretty good business.
Well, I think even just off your initial comparison, everybody's like, okay, Eddie, we get it. We're listening. And they do feel the effects of the inflation that is being told to us as one number and it's actually another. I completely understand what you're saying.
Yes.
So go back to that example. In fact, is it okay? Can we just throw in like a personal example? I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, there's a guy on this podcast right now who has a condo that's worth about $200,000. So just give you the same example that you're talking about.
Okay.
And let's just say he's considering selling the property.
Yes, sir.
Walk me through what it would look like if he didn't sell the property and his last name rhymed with puree. And he just decided to do a seller finance note on it, and then walk me through where it would go from there. So the $200,000 purchase price, he sells the property, he does an owner finance note instead of selling.
All right. You're pretty good at math. Okay, so
don't give him that much credit.
Yeah. So after you pay your expenses, okay, after you get everybody paid every month, what are you netting on this $200,000 condo?
Well, so if I didn't have the mortgage, which I could easily pay off right now, it would be about $700.
$700 a month.
Yes.
So your $200,000 asset is netting you $700 in income.
That's correct.
I will bet you my best pair of Texas Cowboy boots that you can buy a note and get between $1,700 and $2,000 income per month if you owned a note with that same $200,000.
Okay, I'm listening.
You just can, but you could owner finance it. You could sell the house. You could sell the property for $200,000 and get just 10% down, which I will bet you can get more than 10% down. But let's just say, super conservative, easy math. Now you're going to finance $180,000. You finance $180,000 at current non-qualified mortgage rates, non-QM rates, which are about 9, right? You're not trying to charge way more than them mortgage companies. You're just charging what the mortgage companies charge, and you're gonna net $1,800 a month. You're going to be the bank on that condo versus the landlord on that condo. So
when the tenant above their shower leaks behind the wall and it gets into, let's just say, for instance, the bathroom below and the ceiling caves in and there's about $20,000 worth of work that needs to be done in the unit, that's no longer my issue.
That homeowner is going to have insurance that insures him that to cover that liability and that problem. And they're a homeowner and they now owe you as the bank. You're no longer the landlord that gets this drama story about what all happened. Because did you call your bank when all this happened?
No.
Okay. Well, then they're not going to call you.
Perfect.
Tribe, listen up. We're entering into the election year. This is the time where people are going to get super fearful. We're going to see businesses start to dry up. We're going to see opportunities, though, pile up for us only if we're prepared.
That's right. You get to choose right now. Will you allow this time frame to negatively affect you in your business and your investments? Or will you be prepared to take advantage of these huge opportunities that come on the backside of this because you're prepared with cash?
Let's get our house in order. If you haven't already maximized the infinite banking concept in your life, here's the chance for you to start learning. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/IBC. Take our free webinar so that you can start getting equipped with the things that you need to know so that you can take action on this looming event.
All right. So let's say that I'm loving the cash flow, but man, there's an opportunity, and I need the cash. I need a big lump sum for some reason.
Yep.
Russ is, just totally done something on the side, and he's like, Joey, you can't miss out on this deal. We got to go in on this.
Yep.
What do I do from there? I come to you, and I'm going to sell you this note.
So the first thing I'm going to say to you is I'm going to find out how much money you need, because I don't have to buy all of your note.
Okay.
Okay. If you create a 20-year note, it's $180,000. Maybe you just said, Eddie, I really only need, honestly, I need $120,000. I don't need more than that. And I said, well, don't give up selling your whole note at a discount. This represents this little pencil that I draw on my computer with, right? This represents a timeline. It's 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So each hash bar is about an $1,800 a month payment. So I slide over here and say, you know what? Let's just buy the next 10 years of this note. And I'm going to give you $120,000. And then you're going to get the note back at the end of 10 years, and you'll collect the rest of it. And so you don't have to go sell your note at a giant discount. If you want to know what makes the distinction between me and the other people in this business, that's called a partial. I've done that more than 25,000 times.
That's a lot, Joey.
And so I am good at financial modeling and helping people strategically how they buy and sell notes and strategically how they do it. Because that's important when it comes down to the fact that you now love me, because you're not getting clobbered on selling your note at a discount when I could come up with another way to do it. Now, by the way, I'm going to make money on this deal, right?
I wouldn't expect you to be a charity for sure.
Because I'm going to collect $1,800 a month for 120 months, right? So when you really look at this scenario, like we are both making money and we both still love each other, right? And that is right now an example of how you would walk out of a different situation. Multiple different ways to do it. Multiple different ways. Let's just say, Joey, that for whatever reason, you came to me and you said, Eddie, I want to build a retirement account. I've heard about Roth IRAs and, I've got kids and I've heard about these educational accounts, these Coverdale accounts and health savings and all this kind of stuff. And I hear you can buy notes and put those into those accounts so you earn the income inside of, a retirement account. I'm like, yeah, we've done that excessively, right? So you buy a note that has, I'm just going to use really simple math so it's easy to follow, okay? You buy a note with that same 20-year cash flow at $1,000 a month. The payment is $1,000 a month for 20 years, 240 months. You buy that note, call it for $85,000. Maybe the note was $100 and you bought it at a slight discount. Maybe, you buy that for $85,000 and you buy this in your Roth IRA account. Now you say, Eddie, I love this, except my Roth IRA account only has so much money in it. And I'm going to hit the ceiling on how much money I can invest. And I'm like, oh, what we need to do here is financial modeling. Then I show you how to take that cash flow of that note and sell 12 years of that note for like $83,000. Just 12 years. And for $2,000, you own the back 8 years of that note, which is going to throw off about $100,000 in income. 96 payments at $1,000 a month. That's financial modeling.
But I'm now deferring until that end of those 8 years. So after those 12 years is when it kicks in.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't pay off early. So you could get paid off and get a gigantic lump sum of money, way more than your $2,000 investment beforehand. But The point that I'm saying to you is this. I now showed you how to take $2,000 and turn it into $100,000, not today, but tomorrow. And so a lot of people come to me and say, well, I'm frustrated. I'm 50 years old and my retirement account's not where it needs to be. Right. And it didn't turn out the way that the 401k thought it was going to be. And it was this and it was that. Like, let me ask you something. How many people are in America are in that story?
Well, that's the reason we're Wealth Without Wall Street, because we would say you're betting on the game.
So the truth of the matter is I've got a $2,000 investment that is going, if you ran that yield in the calculator, it would be ridiculous. Okay. I mean, we all know that. Like people say, what's the yield? Well, of course I know how to calculate it, but the joke is it's enough. Anything above 25% yield is enough, right? So it doesn't really matter if it's a 30% yield or if it's a 50% yield. It's a bunch of a very insignificant amount of money. We show people how to grow it into a huge amount. Now that is an example of things that people can do. And people say, well, why would I want to go buy notes? Let's go back to your rental for a minute, right?
Yes.
Note school is full of burnout landlords. It is full of them, right? Not everybody that comes to note school has been a burnout landlord, but we got our own little cheering section over there, right? People come to note school and they say, I am burnt out with doing it. And I give people a litmus test that I've tested it. Like you and I's friend over in Birmingham, Jay, right? Who has 250 rentals that he owns. I say, I can own 1,000 notes for the same effort of managing 60 rentals. No seasoned landlord argues with me. So
I get
eliminating brain damage and doing something else with your life is pretty valuable.
So Eddie, I'm going to recap here for the people that are running on the treadmill and getting distracted by what's on the TV in front of them. There's a couple paths here, right? There's those who own a lot of rental property and have been renting them, and maybe they've hit the frustration point and they said, I would like to maybe start moving out of this world. So they are going to then own or finance their properties away and stop renting them. I'm assuming they can go to the marketplace and say, who wants to buy rental properties with tenants already in it? Or they can go to the tenants themselves. And then if they go that route, then they have the option to then, get out of the managing of the tenants. They're just managing the cash flows. And then they even can take that step and go to, if they want to get cash, they can come to people like you who they can sell their note. We didn't answer this question out just really quickly. What is the season? Like, how long do you want to see one of those notes seasoned for before you guys would be interested in purchasing it?
If the credit is sufficient, we can buy it when the ink's wet.
Okay. All right. And what's an efficient credit score that you're looking at?
Oh, you're probably looking at high 600s.
Okay. Perfect.
Depending on what kind of property they bought, right? Okay. Yeah.
All right. So they're selling that. So that's one swath of people. But then there's someone who's listening to this and they're just saying, hey, I need to create cash flow. I want to create cash flow because I know that the more passive income money that comes in that I don't go to work for actively, that exceeds my monthly expenses, I hit financial freedom. So I've been wondering, should I go down the buying rental properties path? And I don't know if I want to do that. I could actually just skip all those other steps that everybody else went through, right? I don't have the tattoo. I don't need that. I could just go directly to the purchasing part, and then I can go buy notes, and then I can start earning the income from those notes. Is that correct? Is that the two pathways?
You can, that is, and you can either get cash flow from the note, or you can use financial modeling as I described in selling the partial, and you don't get the cash flow, but you get terrific wealth. And you get to decide which path you want to go, or maybe you do a splitter and do both paths.
Well, I think for the vast majority of people listening to this show right now, they're trying to solve for the cash flow today.
That's what.
So in your mind, the best strategy to do that is I'm going to need a significant amount of my own capital in order to pull that off? Or is there other strategies that they can employ to make the most out of creating that cash flow today?
That's it. Then we start entering other financial modeling where we show people how to go recoup money out of a note. And there's various ways to go do that. I mean, so yes, people are going to hit a ceiling with how much cash they have to invest. And then at that point, then we show them techniques that we know well of how to go, find capital that they're exchanging some of their cash flow in exchange for some of that capital. Now, that could be that, a portion of their cash flow every month, or it could be they're going to sell all of their cash flow for a period of time. And it becomes, I like to say, it's your chalk and your chalkboard.
Well, this is one of those topics that I'm sure we could keep going deeper and deeper, but be honest, I think most people have a high level viewpoint on it. And either this is something that you're considering in your investment buy box, this meets your investor DNA. Maybe you want to be just a purchaser. Maybe you want to take some properties and turn it into this. Eddie, you've done 50,000 of these deals. Obviously, your experience. But could you take somebody like Joey, for instance, and make him successful in this? And if so, how would you do it?
There's not any hesitation in my mind that I can make Joey successful. None.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank
Right.
you for that vote of confidence.
Well, I mean, first of all, you're logical. You're communicating your story. You're obviously doing this podcast. I mean, of course you can do it. The process of teaching you, giving you bite-sized steps to go do is part of what we've done in building a school, right? I don't care how seasoned somebody is. You got to go start them with, building a wall, right? You got to have building blocks to it. And so we've done that well. I'm very confident that somebody like Joey comes through our process and goes down through the process of coming to a 3-day class. And by the time he leaves there, he's going to have most of the clarity that he needs to go sell his condo, right? There's other things that are going to be a bigger swath. There's other things that are going to take a little more time, but at least he is in a situation where he more than doubled his cash flow, which is, the math is probably going to be this on most rentals. Taking the identical property and collecting the income on rent, the net income after you pay everybody, and collecting the net income on a note is 2.5 to 3 times the cash flow on the same property. Just pretty much, we've modeled it on 1,000 different properties across the country, and that's about where the math's going to land.
So Joey comes to your note school. Walk me through it, because I think that's the hardest part. So many of us have heard deals, courses, or whatever. We don't really know what is in them. So maybe we hesitate. We don't go to them out of the fear of just the unknown. Some of us go and pay the money and then experience something completely different than what we expected. We have disappointment. Create some clarity as to, I send Joey over there to the note school. It's like I'm getting ready to send one off to college tomorrow. And I feel like, all right, here's Joey. I'm going to send him off to note school college. As a parent, what can I expect for Joey over the next 6 months or year or whatever? What would be a good expectation? What is he going to be learning? How long is it going to take him for him to learn it? And based upon your experience of doing this so many times, what will be my results? Will I get my return on tuition for Joey back?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take Joey down a really simple path, which is what you've got here on the screen, which is just a couple of hours worth of something. We're going to see if Joey likes this. And I'm going to give you a master class for a couple of hours. We'll have financial modeling, so we'll be able to whiteboard things out. It'll be a little easier to follow than just here and us doing how we're doing it today. We're going to answer a lot of questions. So we're going to have a live virtual class. It's virtual. It's on the internet, but it's live. and we're going to answer questions. We're going to go through that stuff, and you're going to hear the answer to your questions, Joey, and you're going to hear the answer to a bunch of other questions. And so we're going to definitely be able to put a compression of time for you to even get a sense of, like, if you, before you even committed to a 3-day class, like, what is it that you might learn and why does it matter? Right? Then you come to a class. So the class is not, it's not some style of lecture where we're just up there theorizing about something. You know, it is predominantly teaching with case studies. So we take real examples. You know, there may be a little building blocks to get to why this case study mattered or why this part in the case study made sense. But then we are going to start applying it to a real case study, right? It's the house with the green shutters, so to speak. This is what they did to it. This is why it mattered. This is what the story of the student situation was. You know, they were somebody that was fit. And Joey might say, oh my gosh, that second guy, he was my story. He had the same situation that I similarly did. So people then start really applying it as if it works. Listen, this is my 44th year in this business, right? I'm 64 years old. We're not going to have some seminar, some, you know, circus, you know, kind of, that's not who we are. It's just not what we're going to do. If you like how I kind of talk and present today, you're going to like me and my team when you progress. So this is how it's going to be. This isn't a bunch of silliness or, you know, like teaching you. I thought they were going to teach me all this. They didn't teach me any of that. This in a 3-day class, I can tell you exactly what we're going to work really hard to do. We're going to show you what is possible. And we're going to show you some mechanics, but I'm not going to mislead anybody in the world. In 3 days, you're not going to make somebody a master of their trade. That's completely ridiculous, right? I learned something about the note business last week. I mean, seriously, right? So then, as you said, we're going to then go to another level where somebody can hang out with us, and we've built a lot of things where people essentially can rent our back office. There's some things that people just don't have enough experience or enough confidence yet, or they're still going to make some mistakes they don't want to make. And so there's some ways we figured out when people go with us long-term, they can actually rent out some things from us because this is what we do all day, every day. And we've done tens of thousands of times. And
Eddie, in our community, we refer to this as investor DNA, but for like just a short and quick answer here, who is the avatar? Who is the person that you've watched do this over and over again, have the most success? And then who's the one that is the polar opposite that comes but doesn't have success? What we want to do is eliminate the need for someone to be frustrated, but also help the person who is that successful student inside of your school to go, I should probably come. I should probably look into this.
I would almost bet anything that you would, because I have a sense of, you know, we've had a little interview before we got to this today. And you guys kind of knew about me. Here's the thing. Here's who we don't serve. I don't serve gangster house buyers. I don't serve some broke guy trying to go hustle some old lady out of a house. I'm out. Okay.
I'm sorry, Russ. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no kidding. Right. So somebody that has no money and they're just a street hustler, right? That's not my guy. I serve people that have some investable capital and are trainable how to go do a business with some discipline, right? I'm going to go show them, like, there's vendors to go do a lot of things for them that they don't have to go do themselves, but they probably need some investable capital. Our typical student makes pretty good money. They're pretty educated, right? We've run demographics on our most successful students, and they probably have a college degree. I don't have a college degree. I have an associate's degree in ranch management. Okay, so let me just tell you something. The guy leading this ship does not have a 4-year degree, just to tell you that. But most of our people do. We train a lot of doctors. We train a lot of dentists. We train a lot of high-end realtors. We train a lot of engineers. We train a lot of business owners. And a lot of them don't want a note buying business. They want a note buying strategy that we can help them implement.
Excellent.
Or
Excellent.
a retirement strategy. So for the most part, they tend to be a little older. Now, don't think there's not people in note school very successful that aren't in their 30s, but there's more of them that are up into their 50s because
That makes sense.
they wake up and they're not satisfied with their retirement. They don't like where they are.
Well, and I think that is who we serve on this show, are the people that have woken up to the fact that something's not quite right about what they always thought was true about money, about their end goal of what they're trying to accomplish, or they just realize, man, this isn't what success feels like. I didn't sign up for whatever I'm dealing with today.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that you're willing to come on and share another strategy that others can wake up to and say, man, maybe this is the strategy I should be going down. This is my path to financial freedom. So Eddie, I got to tell you, I'm grateful for your time and for your expertise. Obviously, you're the OG in this space, and you've done it more than anybody else that we've ever interviewed. So grateful. So people can connect with you at the same website we've been talking about, wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/note school. They can get details about the masterclass and everything that you've mentioned today. Any other place that you would want them to connect with you?
I think it's a great place to start. We're going to give them all kind of training materials. We'll make the best use of 2 hours they can probably do to get the fastest level of information, and we'll send them home with some really good follow-up materials and stuff. So it's going to be pretty solid information there.
Amazing.
Eddie, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you.
Great to see you guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tribe, for listening. If you found value, share this with someone who needs to hear this message as well. And as always, have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.